Hello and welcome back to the Magic Shop. It's been a while, and I can tell you it's good to be back. So I've been talking a lot to channel partners lately, and here's one conversation that keeps coming back to me. Usually starts with something like, "We quoted the project 2 months ago, and by the time PO came from the customer came through, our costs have jumped, and we basically broke even." And then typically someone chimes in, "Actually, we didn't break even, we lost money." If you are in the IT resale business right now, I bet you had this conversation or you're about to have one. Because what's happening right now in the component market is not just another price fluctuation. And I want to explain why and what it actually means to your business. Let me give you the numbers first, because they are pretty stark. Gartner published a forecast in late February projecting that DRAM and SSD prices combined will surge by 130% by the end of 2026. This is not 10%, not 20, not 30, 130. And that's enough to push average PC prices by 17%. And Gartner expects this to cause a 10% drop in PC shipments globally. That's the steepest decline in more than a decade. And here is another detail that should really worry anyone in the channel. Memory costs are now expected to reach 23% of a PC total bill of material, up from 16-17% last year. Gartner is now saying that the sub $500 laptop segment will simply disappear by 2028. At the same time, Omdia has published a channel survey just this month, and the survey shows that those price increases are already being felt across every hardware category. 81 responders says the survey vendors have already implemented price hikes. That's 73% for PCs, 72% in storage. That's not the forecast. That is what have actually already happened. Now, here is where it really gets really uncomfortable, because it's not just the prices that have gone up. It's how it happened. Let me walk you through the timeline. Dell moved first. Back in December 2025, they raised commercial PC prices by 10 to 30% and told their sales teams to close deals fast. Their internal messaging was very blunt. Order it today for future delivery, does not lock the current pricing. And the COO of Dell said publicly during the earnings call that he has never seen memory costs rise that fast. Then I believe HP went on, and they went even further. In early February, they updated their contract terms for servers and GreenLake orders to allow price adjustments all the way up to the day of shipment. Quote validity windows were cut to 14 days, and on their Q1 earnings call, Antonio Neri, the CEO of HP, confirmed it publicly. They've amended their quoting terms with the right to reprice existing orders between quoting and shipment. Cisco did essentially the same thing. They now reserve the right to cancel compute orders and to adjust pricing between order and shipment date if component cost, tariffs, or other external factors change. Think about what that means. These aren't small adjustments. The vendors are telling you, we cannot guarantee the price even after you've placed the order. I've heard partners saying they've never seen a situation where the vendor cannot guarantee the price even after you've placed order. Honestly saying, in my years running price for HP and HPE, that was never the case. The quoted price was a promise set in stone, but not anymore. So vendors have not just raised prices, they fundamentally changed the terms of engagements. Shorter quote validity, post-order repricing, and no price locks until shipment. That is unprecedented in the channel history. So now let's talk about what this actually does to a reseller business, because the math here is brutal. You've spent weeks, maybe months, scoping a project. You've built a solution, gotten vendor pricing, created a proposal, standard kind of a reseller business. Your customer has gone through internal approvals. Maybe you're talking about a six-figure deal. Everything is lined up. And then the vendor tells you, the price just went up 30% on the memory components. Your quote is based on a cost that no longer exists. And now you have three options, and none of them are good. Option one, accept a negative margin, deliver a project at a loss, absorb the heat. Maybe you preserve the relationship, but you are literally paying to do the work. For smaller firms running on a 10 to 12% margins, one or two of these deals in a quarter, and you are in a serious trouble. Option two, you can try to renegotiate with the customer. You can go back and say, actually, it's going to cost more. But the moment you reopen that conversation, you are reopening the deal. The customer might understand, but they might also decide to get 3 new quotes. And now your competitor is in the room. I've actually heard the stories when the customer simply canceled the deal. They had no additional budget and decided to shift the money somewhere else. You can also walk away from the deal. That's your option number 3. Kill the deal entirely, protect your P&L, but lose the revenue, lose the customer relationship, and potentially lose future business. None of these are sustainable if they are happening. And right now, with the speed at which costs are moving, they are happening to resellers every single week. Now, some people will say, we've seen price cycles before, this will pass. And I understand the instinct. We all lived through the COVID supply chain disruptions. Prices spiked, things got tight, and then they normalized. But guys, this is different. And I want to be really clear about why. The reasons memory prices are surging isn't a temporary supply chain hiccup, it's structural. The global semiconductor industry is actively redirecting manufacturing capacity towards AI infrastructure. We're talking about GPUs, high bandwidth memory, massive storage for training data. And that reallocation of capacity means less supply for traditional components that go into the PCs, servers, and storage arrays that your customers buy. Intel CEO has said that he expects the memory shortage to last until 2028. HPE's CEO said he expects elevated prices to persist well into 2027. Gartner calls this the steepest device shipment contraction in over a decade. And look at what the vendors have done to their contract terms. You don't rewrite your T's and C's. You don't introduce post-order repricing and 14-day quote windows if you think this is a 3-month problem. These are structural changes to how the vendor-partner relationship works. They are telling you through their actions that this is the new normal. This is not cyclical. The vendors aren't just raising the prices. They've rewritten the rules. Shorter quotes, post-order repricing, no price locks until shipments. These are permanent structural changes, not temporary crisis measures. And this is where I want to zoom out, because the price increases are the symptom of something much, much bigger. If your entire business model depends on buying hardware at one price and selling it at another, you are structurally exposed to exactly this kind of disruption. Every time the spread between your buy price and your sell price get compressed, your business gets squeezed. And you have very few levers to pull. You're locked into the fixed price quotes. Your customer expects specific SKUs. You don't have a recurring revenue to cushion the blow. And now the vendors are telling you they won't even guarantee the price between your order and your delivery. For the resellers that are well capitalized and have strong customer relationships, this is painful but survivable. But for the many smaller firms running on thin margins, and there are thousands of them in the channel, this could be genuinely existential. A bad quarter of margin erosion doesn't just hurt, it can threaten the business. And that, by the way, is exactly where the kind of environment where consolidation happens. When smaller players can't absorb the shocks, they become acquisition targets, or they simply close. Now, there is a different model that handles this kind of volatility very differently, and in my next videos, I'm going to break down how managed service providers are structured to absorb exactly this kind of cost pressure. The short version: when hardware is one component in a broader service delivery model, not the entire value proposition, the calculus changes completely. Recurring revenue, SLA-based contracts, flexibility on hardware sourcing, price escalation clauses, these aren't nice to haves. In these environments, they are survival tools. And increasingly, over 70% of MSPs are projecting double-digit revenue growth in 2026. Even us resellers are getting squeezed. That contrast tells you a lot about which model is built for this moment. So if you're running a resale-focused business right now, here's my ask. Take a hard look at your current pipeline. Go through the deals you've quoted in the last 60 days. Check whether your cost assumptions still hold. And ask yourself, what happens if they don't? Because right now, the vendors are protecting their margins. Gartner is telling you the component pressure will continue, and the traditional rules of channel engagements are being rewritten in real time. Now, here's the thing. I spent a big part of my career on the vendor side of this equation. I know how the pricing machine works at these companies, and I know how quotes get built, how deal registrations interact with pricing, how configurations affect margins, and where the levers actually are. And there are things you can do right now to protect yourself. There are ways to structure your quotes, time your orders, work the vendor programs, and configure deals that most partners don't think about because they never sat on the other side of a table. It won't solve the structural problem. That is a longer conversation. But in a short term, there are some real moves you can make, and I'm happy to share them. So if you are sitting on a deal right now and you are worried about cost exposure, or you just want to compare notes on how to navigate this, reach out, DM me, drop a comment, whatever works. I genuinely enjoyed these conversations, and I've seen enough of the inside game to know where the opportunities are, even when things look this tight. In the meantime, the bigger question: how do you build a business that doesn't live or die by the hardware spread? That's what the future videos will be about. And I think you'll find them eye-opening. See you soon.